The Timp Peak has had a solid reputation for years now, getting like great reviews on Pinkbike, the Loam Wolf, and a lot of other media outlets. So when they completely redesigned this ARI Timp Peak 2.0, I had one serious question. So why such a dramatic change in the new frame design?
Well,
all right, Ty, so before we get started, I just want to introduce everyone to you. So can you tell us a bit about like your role at ARI Bikes, what you do there, and how you were involved in the design of this new Timp Peak 2.0?
hey, I'm Ty Bishop, product manager over the Timp Peak at ARI Bicycles. I'm really excited to show you guys the bike today and kind of dive into it. So as product manager, my goal and my responsibility is to listen to customer feedback. I want to understand what did customers think about the outgoing bike, the Timp Peak 1.0? What did they like about it? What feedback did they have, or was there anything they wanted to change? The goal of kind of the new bike was to take all that rider feedback and synthesize it into a new package with some of the new e-bike offerings on the market. Timp Peak 1.0 was our first carbon e-bike ever. This is now our 5th carbon e-bike. We have learned a ton in that process, even though it's only been 2 years. My role is kind of leading the design team in terms of, hey, what is the actual product that we're building? What system are we using? Geometry, kinematic, suspension.
All right, so Ty, let's get a little bit more into this specific frame right here. Yep. So what's the model that I'm riding today?
So you are on the Timp Peak Pro today. We've got 5 models in the lineup. So we've got a team edition that's one step above this, carbon everything, XX transmission. You're on the Pro, XO transmission, Maven brakes, Rockstock's Ultimate suspension, killer new Crank Brothers wheels that they just released. Yeah, one-up dropper, all those kind of key touch points. The other one I highlight is it's got a DH casing rear tire, double down front. Like, this bike's meant to be ridden hard.
Yeah, so, which is awesome. I love that all your bikes come spec'd and ready to ride. Like, you're not going to have to upgrade the casing on the tire and stuff like that. And then, so that 5th option, you guys offer a frame only as well, right?
Yes, we've got a fairly unique in that we do offer a frame only option. So it's the motor battery package, and then it comes with cranksets, chain rings, kind of all the E parts you need. So if you want to build this up from the frame set, you can get it with a shock, you can get it with a fork. If you've got everything else, you can bolt on your favorite parts and go from there.
And then every single model has the same frame, like carbon frame, the same motor, the same display, the same battery options and everything, right?
Yep.
There's nothing, none of them are skimped out or anything.
Yes, yeah, so highest grade carbon across the lineup. This is all our clean cast carbon. So that's shared across the board. In terms of the motor and battery, this is the new Bosch Performance Line CX Gen 5, so the Gen 5 motor. It's a customer's choice of either an 800 watt hour or 600 watt hour main battery, and then in place of your bottle you could also put a 250 watt hour range extender if you want it. So that's all selectable to customers. We know there's people who ride, they just want all the range possible, they're going to run the 800. Maybe someone's a little bit more concerned about weight, and so that type of rider could favor a 600, or they're just a lighter weight rider. So our goal was to give customers options. A tagline for this bike could be, it's not just an e-bike, it's your e-bike your way. So choose what you want, choose your battery size, choose your wheel size if you want to run a mullet setup. So yeah, there's tons of different configurations.
And you guys, there's so much more we can get into on this bike right now. They allow you to completely customize it on their website, but there's so many good review videos on this bike already. So let's get down to like the purpose and the point of this video, because the big question I had was like the Timp Peak 1.0, it was already so good. I remember a few years ago watching reviews, like I said, on Pinkbike, on Loam Wolf, like even hearing you guys liked that bikes, like
loved it.
So why change it? And it wasn't just a small change, it's like a drastic change. Like, you went from like the linkage being connected to like the down tube or the top tube right here completely to a totally different rocker link system with like a vertical shock and everything. So like, I guess like why, right?
Yeah. And that is a fantastic question. I love that you like capture some of those details, right? Like, I think customers see that, and like, for those of you guys watching, like, if maybe you have this original bike, yeah, why did we change it, right? We're thinking about those same things too. We don't want to just change things for the sake of it, right? But taking some of the feedback that we received on the last bike, there's just some areas we wanted to improve. So I'm going to highlight kind of maybe 3 key areas on this. So
okay.
One is a change kind of the suspension design for packaging with the system. So there's been like a kinematic change. 2, what we wanted to do with how the E system fits in there, how the Bosch system fits in there. And then 3, just giving riders more fit options. Fit options, wheel size options, geometry adjustments. So those are kind of the key 3 areas. Suspension, packaging of the motor system, and then geometry adjustments were kind of why we made some of these changes. So let me kind of show you in a little bit more detail. So similarities first, okay? This is still our TetraLink suspension design. So it's still a 4-bar horse link suspension design. It's still got all of the same kind of pivot layouts, but the rocker link did transition, right? From mounting to the top tube to a vertical mounted shock now with the C2 mounted shock. That allowed us to do a couple of things on the suspension side. So one of our goals was to make the new Timp Peak more active under braking. And one way we did that is we lowered the anti-squat. So this new suspension layout and configuration allowed us to lower the, the anti-rise, not the anti-squat. The anti-rise was lowered to about 40% across the board, which keeps the suspension more active when you're braking, especially with the added weight of the e-bike. So that's kind of one piece. 2, we wanted to be able to package everything that the riders wanted, both battery sizes, the full power motor, and not limit any rider on any size to maybe a smaller battery like you see, or force them into a 27.5 rear wheel. So that was one piece of it. And then geometry fit adjustments. Every single bike, you can absolutely slam droppers. So we're having riders, really your dropper length is only dictated by how long your leg is at this point. We've positioned the pivot so that you can slam a dropper in there. We regularly seeing riders on larges run 240s. Someone even on a medium with long enough legs could run a 240 on a medium-sized
frame.
On a medium-sized frame.
That's impressive.
We've got a 5'3" rider who's on this. She went from a 125 on the previous bike to a 170.
Okay, so let me just recap real quick. So the main reason for the frame change was, in order to allow people more adjustability with those flip chips, to be able to adjust the geometry, more adjustments on the geometry, to be able to run 27.5 or full 29ers for the rear wheel, regardless of size. The dropper post giving you more options there. Working with that new Bosch motor, with that new Bosch CX5 motor, which is impressive, by the way. And then also the battery. But I will say, I kind of like the old battery, how it just popped out, how you could just pop it out, like on the fly, I could just pop it out and put it back in.
So this has a battery that does bolt into the frame, so it keeps it really, really quiet. There's less like latch mechanisms, things that we're kind of working with, but it still is removable forward of the motor without removing the motor. So it is field swappable. There's 4 bolts you do to undo this cover. There's 4 bolts that hold the battery in. It would slide out, slide the new one back in. Once you've done it once or twice, it takes about 2 minutes.
And I did say a couple times when I was riding, like how quiet the bike was. And so with having the battery completely enclosed, and with all that internal cable routing, everything enclosed in there, allows you to keep it nice and quiet, like
really, really quiet. Yeah. So some other reasons kind of we made the change, and just updates to the frame as well. So this has full tube-in-tube cable routing. So if you push in a brake hose, it comes out right where it needs to. You push in a dropper housing, you push in your rear shift housing, it goes right where it needs to. You're not trying to, especially with e-bikes, mess around with like the battery in there and trying to get it in position, and you can't slide the battery in. It's fully guided through the frame. So that keeps it really quiet and just makes it really, really simple. The Bosch motor is also really interesting. So if you really look at how this is designed, it's actually only touching one side of the frame.
Oh, really?
And this other side with these bushings, it's actually kind of free suspended and floating. And that single-sided contact on the frame helps reduce resonance. And that's one reason it sounds so much quieter when you're riding. So there's some really cool kind of details in there. Because we now, the battery isn't removed kind of tilting out of the frame, we're able to fully close that down tube, which allows us to build a stiffer frame. When you have a massive cutout out of the frame, right? You just went from a really strong shape, and then you cut a piece out of it, right?
That makes total sense.
So you have to do way more carbon layup there in order to get stiffness out of the front end of the bike. So we're able to build a lighter but just as strong front triangle by fully enclosing the down tube.
And we weren't riding like the gnarliest trails today, but I could definitely feel it as I was pushing into those corners or popping up those little things. Like this bike just feels nice, planted, solid. You can feel that stiffness, that little bit of compliance though as well. Like it was feeling really good. I really liked what you guys did. I like the way this bike felt. I think sometimes for me as an average rider, like I don't I don't know exactly what changed. I don't know how to describe what I was feeling, but I know it felt good riding it. So I can tell you I like the Timp Peak 2.0. If you got the Timp Peak 1.0, I don't think it's necessarily obsolete. It's still a good bike, but the Timp Peak 2.0 is definitely worth checking out. So, you know, if you guys have made it this far, now's a good time to like, subscribe, but leave a comment down below. Like, do you guys want to see me do, you know, more of a long-term review on this Timp Peak 2.0? Because I could do that. And if you guys got any more questions, leave them in the comments. I'm sure Ty will help me answer those for you guys. But remember, you guys, no matter which bike you're riding, the Timp Peak 1.0 or the 2.0, at the end of the day, it's all about getting stoked, going riding, and having some fun, people. You got the lat and long of Timp Peak right there. Timp Peak, it's in Utah, right?
Yep.
It's a peak in Utah. Do they have mountain bike trails there on Timp Peak?
Right outside our office.
Yeah, gonna have to go ride that Timp Peak on the Timp Peak.